5 hours. That's how much our ferry schedule shifted 1 month before we left on our trip to Greece, nearly costing us the one stop my kids cared about the most. A lot of people would panic and rebook the whole trip. We didn't. Instead of changing our destination, we just rearranged our plans. Consider this your complete Skopelos tour guide. I'll show you what it takes to get there, how to handle last-minute ferry changes, where to stay, what not to miss, and whether or not it's worth adding to your Greek itinerary. Hi, I'm Karen, and this is Karen Roams, and I help you travel smarter so you spend less, stress less, and experience more. That 5-hour shift meant our 3 p.m. ferry turned into a 10 a.m. ferry, which we later found out is pretty common for Greek ferry providers to rearrange their schedule 30 days before departure. But it upended our plans immediately, so instead of spending one more night in Naphtali, we had to drive the 4 hours to get closer to the desolate ferry terminal. We seriously reconsidered whether it was worth rearranging everything. This trip was to celebrate my daughter's college graduation, and Skopelos was a place that she'd been looking forward to the most. She's a huge Mamma Mia fan, and since I grew up listening to ABBA, it felt like its own full circle moment. With my son leaving for his travel abroad 2 weeks later, and my daughter starting her new career not long after, we knew this might be our last family trip that we could do together in a while. Looking back, not skipping Skopelos was the right call. So, where exactly is Skopelos? It's part of the Sporades Islands in the Aegean Sea, just off Greece's east coast. While islands like Santorini and Mykonos are known for its whitewashed villages and dramatic cliffs, Skopelos is covered with pine forests that reach all the way to the sea. That's not a coincidence. Santorini is literally a sunken volcano, all ash and rock. Skopelos never was, so its soil holds enough water for trees to grow. If you've seen the movie Mamma Mia, you've already seen some of its best scenery. Getting there ended up being part of the adventure. Because our ferry time had moved, we needed to find a place near the ferry port to stay since we had a morning departure now. If you're taking the ferry from Mantoudi, there's 3 little towns that are about a half-hour away from the desolate ferry port. Since schedules change, and even when they don't, it's a much more relaxed morning to be close by rather than trying to hump it to the ferry port on time. The ferry companies typically will email you or text you when the schedule changes, so keep your eye on your reservation and definitely check it a day or 2 before just to make sure it's still set. We figured we'd just find a spot to spend the night. Instead, we stumbled upon a little town we probably never would have visited otherwise. As we wandered around that evening, the promenade filled with people doing their evening volta. Teenagers on bikes, little kids playing with the local cat, and neighbors stopping to chat as they walked past. We joined half the town for dinner along the waterfront. We ended up paying €5 for a liter of wine that we split, and another €25 for €4 sandwiches. I would say a €30 bill for 4 people and a bottle of wine. That's not a bad deal at all. What started off as a travel headache ended up introducing us to a town we would probably never have visited, and it was one of our favorite evenings of the entire trip. The next morning, after our 30-minute drive, we ended up at the port. You drive through farmland and pastures to get there, and it's basically a long dock with a portable trailer as a ticket booth. We joined the line of cars and I got out to go check us in. A couple of buses dropped off foot passengers, and about 15 minutes before departure, we started to board, and it happened rather quickly. We had assigned seats once we got onto the ferry, but that was a bit more like a loose suggestion. Enforcement seemed to be on vacation too, which, to be fair, so was everyone else. Don't let the Greek ferries intimidate you if you've never taken one. About an hour later, we reached Skiathos, had a 15-minute stop there, and then another 15-minute ride to Glossa on the north end of Skopelos. If driving isn't your thing, you can also fly into Skiathos, then walk to the ferry port and hop on your 15-minute ferry to Glossa. That's actually how a lot of visitors get there, and it's worth flying for the airport alone. The runway butts up right against a public beach, pretty similar to the St. Martin runway. Incoming planes come in low enough over sunbathers' heads to be a famous stop for plane watchers worldwide. Nothing like a bottle of sunscreen and a 737 in the same photo. Since we had brought our rental car onto the ferry with us, getting around Skopelos was pretty easy. If you're not bringing a car, there's rental agencies where you can rent scooters or quads for your trip there. Or there's a public bus system that runs the island. Check the schedule before you go. As far as where to stay, I don't think you can make a bad choice. We chose a little fishing village called Agios off the west coast. I'm a bit of a sunset snob, so if there's an island with a west coast, that's where you'll find me. Agios was exactly what we were looking for. It's small and quiet, but still had a convenience store and 3 little harborside restaurants where we could spend the evening having beers and watching the sunset. It was also about a 15-minute drive to Skopelos Town if we wanted a little bit more action. On the opposite end is Glossa, where the ferry from Skiathos lands. It's a charming Mediterranean port with cobblestone streets and narrow alleys that are fun to explore on foot. The drive between Agios and Glossa takes about 45 minutes, and it might be the best 45 minutes you'll ever spend in a car. Winding through pine forests, overlooking the Aegean, a beautiful viewpoint around each corner. The nice thing is the island is small enough you're never that far from where you want to go. As far as how long to stay, we spent 3 nights. And if you're just looking for the Mamma Mia sights, you could probably get away with 2. But if you want to explore a little bit deeper into the Greek culture and visit some of the beaches, at least 3, if not more. The funny thing is, for us, the Mamma Mia locations almost became secondary. Skopelos has its own charm that doesn't need a Hollywood backdrop. With that said, here's what you shouldn't miss. And since I'm incapable of talking about Greece without bringing up the water, let's start with the beaches. The beaches are what makes Skopelos so great. Each one felt completely different, so pick a few based on the vibe you're looking for. Since we stayed in Agios, that naturally became our evening beach. It's a small pebbled waterfront that looks out onto a little harbor, but just know since it is west facing, there is not a lot of shade as the sun gets heavy. Limonare was probably the prettiest beach we visited. The water was crystal clear and sailboats drifted around the little harbor. And the 2 beachfront restaurants made it easy to settle in for an afternoon. Parking there is limited, so arrive early. Agios Ioannis Beach was much smaller with only a handful of lounge chairs set beneath the cliffs. You can't actually see the famous church from the beach, but the dramatic rocks and crystal clear water make it worth the visit. Since our waiter there was basically a billy goat with an apron and a food tray, we tipped him well for running up and down those stairs 100 times. Aramandos Cove couldn't have been much different. It's a fairly steep, rocky path that leads down to a beautiful grotto with some of the most beautiful blue water we've ever seen. The rocks are sharp, so water shoes are a must, but the scenery alone makes the short hike worthwhile. Those were only 4 of Skopelos beaches we made it to. We planned to get to Kastani Beach, where Lay All Your Love on Me and Does Your Mother Know was filmed, but we never made it, and honestly, that's my advice. Don't try to get to every beach if you have limited time. Pick a couple of them and enjoy them. But let's be honest, you didn't click on a Skopelos video just for the beaches. You're here for Mamma Mia. Watching my kids recognize the locations in real time, pointing, gasping, and practically vibrating, was honestly worth this whole detour on its own. If I had to pick just one Mamma Mia filming location, it would be Agios Ioannis Chapel, the little church perched on the top of the cliff where the wedding scenes were filmed. Getting there, however, means a narrow, windy road. We followed a cab that would stop and honk at each corner because the visibility and the width of the road made it impossible not to. The parking lot at the chapel is small, so try to get there early if you can before the tour buses. It's about 200 steps to the top. The climb isn't especially difficult, but if you have vertigo or are afraid of heights, I would skip it. There is handrail, but it does a lot of the emotional heavy lifting on your way up and down. The chapel itself is tiny, but the views of the Aegean are worth every step. Standing there next to that tiny wedding chapel, my own personal Sophie beside me, the whole trip we had almost rearranged our way out of, I got a little emotional. I hit it pretty well, but damn wind. At the bottom of the hill is Agios Ioannis Beach, making it an easy stop to combine with the chapel. We also visit Aramandos Cove for its Mamma Mia claim to fame. Sophie's run through the pine trees singing Honey Honey, and some of the sailing scenes from our last summer were shot here. Whether you're a die-hard Mamma Mia fan or you've never seen the movie, don't let the film locations become your itinerary. They're fun to visit, but only a small part of what makes this island so special. That's really the biggest lesson we took away from the island. The best memories weren't the famous places. They were the extra hour at the beach, lingering over lunch by the water, and giving ourselves permission to slow down. If you want more tips like this, download my free guide, How to Stop Ruining Your Own Vacation. It's the tips and tricks I've adopted to spend less and experience more. If you think that's something you'd be interested, I'll have the link in the description below, or you can go to KarenRoams.com after you're done watching this video. All right, guide aside, let's get back to Skopelos, because no matter how many places in Greece I visit, I will never stop ranting about the food. You'll find all the Greek favorites here. Fresh seafood, souvlaki, gyros, moussaka, Greek salad, and waterfront tavernas where it's easy to lose track of time over lunch. One of the smartest things we did was ask our host where to eat. Instead of just naming restaurants, he told us which places were best for a casual lunch, other places that would be good for a fancy dinner, which restaurant to eat at Limonari Beach, and even where to find the island's clothing optional beach. Your hotel or booking host is usually your best source for finding restaurants. Now, I love Greek food, but after 2 weeks, we were definitely in the mood for something different. We ended up finding a Mexican-Japanese fusion restaurant in Skopelos Town, and did it hit the spot. The sushi was surprisingly good. The chips and salsa were free, and as someone who will never pass up a pork belly bao bun taco, I wasn't complaining. Another night we ordered pizza to our hotel, watched the sunset on our balcony, and played cards till the wee hours of the morning. Then the next day we took the leftover pizza to Aramandos Cove for our lunch. Those meals may not have been the traditional Greek experience, but they're still some of our favorite memories. The nice thing about Skopelos is it isn't an island full of expensive attractions. It's one where your budget goes toward experiences, and here's what those experiences cost us. Getting there was the biggest expense. Our round-trip ferry tickets were $100 per person, and it was also $100 per person for the rental car. We upgraded to first class because it wasn't too much more money, but I wouldn't do that again since everyone just kind of found their own space and didn't pay attention to their ticket. We filled our car's Sparky's gas tank before we left the mainland, just because we know fuel on islands can be pretty expensive. Our hotel there was actually the least expensive of the entire trip. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo with a balcony that overlooked the bay and a brilliant pool. Breakfast wasn't included here, but it was easy to stop at the grocery store and make our own thing. Compare that to Mykonos or Santorini, where a basic mid-range hotel room, no kitchen, no pool, half the space, runs $165 to $240 a night. Same country, wildly different math. Food was also a little bit cheaper than in Athens and Naplio, which was a little surprising for an island. I'd still budget around $75 per person per day for food and excursions. That gives you enough flexibility to enjoy the dinners at the tavernas, stop for snacks or drinks at the beach bars, and pick up groceries for breakfast or lunch. Beach chair rentals usually around €10 per chair. The best part is there aren't many paid attractions here. Most of your budget goes to your hotel, your ferry, good food, and simply enjoying the island. So, what would I do differently? Simply put, I'd stay longer. 3 nights was enough to make us want to come back, but not enough to see everything. We never made it on the ancient tomb hike. We skipped Kastani Beach altogether, and I wish we had spent more evenings in Skopelos Town just exploring the little narrow cobblestone lanes and shops. Instead of squeezing more into 3 nights, add another day or 2. You'll keep the same relaxed pace and get to see a little bit more. If you're deciding between Skopelos and some of Greece's other famous islands, don't overlook it. It's a completely different experience with a personality all its own. And that's really what this whole trip came down to. A 5-hour ferry change could have cost us Skopelos entirely. Instead, it gave us 3 days we didn't want to end. A detour we'll keep talking about, and a story my daughter will probably tell for years. We didn't change our destination, We just changed our plans. And I'd make that same call again in a heartbeat. So is Skopelos worth it? For us, absolutely. We came because my daughter's a huge Mamma Mia fan, but somewhere along the way, the movie became the least interesting part of the island. What we'll remember is the crystal clear blue water, the pine forest stretching all the way to the sea, lingering over lunch with a view, watching the sunset from our balcony while playing cards, and the kind people we met along the way. If you're looking for world-famous nightlife and iconic cliffside hotels, this is probably not your spot. But if you're looking for a slower pace, beautiful scenery, and a place that feels a bit more authentic, I think you'll fall in love with it too. If you're planning the rest of your Greece trip, I've also covered Athens and the Peloponnese, both linked up above, so that you can build an itinerary that's right for you. If this video helped you plan your trip, give it a like and a subscribe. It helps YouTube share these videos with more people and supports the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, go get lost on purpose.